Welcome. This is Richard, and I want to welcome you to the Innovation Best Practices episodes. I try to make every episode one that can help you sell more and make more through innovation using proven and practical best practices that I believe can help any business with any innovation need. I want to give a special welcome to our listeners around the world, now in more than 91 countries. Welcome. In these episodes, you have two options for listening to them. You can go to YouTube and listen to this as a VideoCast, where the audio track is the same as the podcast. And in the search bar on YouTube, just put in Richard Innovation Best Practices. We'll be 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever, down in the search results. Click on it, and you'll see all the available episodes. You can also go to i2ge.com, that's the letter I, number 2, ge.com/podcast, or iTunes for the Innovation Best Practices podcast. If you're listening to these, I would really appreciate it if you could recommend these episodes to a friend or two or three or more. Thank you in advance for your help. You can also visit my website, i2ge, that's the letter I, number 2, ge.com. Many free resources for you here. A lot of help. If you want to contact me, I love hearing from listeners. Just send me an email to richard@i2ge.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Today we begin an unusual three-part series. For those of you that have been listening to these episodes, I rarely devote 3 episodes to one particular topic, but this is one of those important ones. We're going to be talking about What Matters Now, Part 1, which What Matters Now is the name of a best-selling book by Gary Hamel, who's one of the most insightful big-picture seers of the business world. A guy I have tremendous respect for, and I strongly urge you to get his book, What Matters Now. We'll have a lot of excerpts in these 3 parts, but it's only a fraction of what you'll be able to get if you read the entire book. It absolutely is. So, the full name of the book is What Matters Now, How to Win in a World of Relentless Change, Ferocious Competition, and Unstoppable Innovation. Okay, let's get into this. He points out 5 focus points that drive success: values, innovation, adaptability, passion, and ideology in business. Let's take a closer look at some of those. Throughout this 3-part series, I've elected to use a number of direct quotes from the book. And that's because, A, he says things extremely well, certainly better than I could if I attempted to summarize what he's saying. But I also want you to make sure that you get the full meaning of what he's talking about. So everything you're going to be hearing here up until the end is really direct quotes from this great book. On innovation, he says, in a densely connected global economy, successful products and strategies are quickly copied. Boy, ever are they. Without relentless innovation, success is fleeting. Nevertheless, there's not one company in 100 that has made innovation everyone's job every day. In most organizations, innovation still happens despite the system rather than because of it. Whew. There's a lot said here. In today's world, you need relentless innovation. Innovation is not everyone's job. And that innovation, when it does succeed, seems to happen despite the system. I couldn't agree more. More on innovation from Gary. That's a problem because innovation is the only sustainable strategy for creating long-term value. Let me say that again. Innovation is the only sustainable strategy for creating long-term value. After a decade of talking about innovation, it's time to close the gap between rhetoric and reality. To do so, we'll need to recalibrate priorities and retool mindsets. That won't be easy, but we have no choice since innovation matters now more than ever. Okay. You can see why I'm using direct quotes. Innovation is the only sustainable strategy for creating long-term value. Amen. And innovation matters now more than ever. If you're listening to this as a podcast and you want to see these direct quotes, you can listen to them in the VideoCast version that I talked about that's available on YouTube, going through PowerPoint slides with the quotes up there if you'd like to get and capture them a little bit more. Okay. One of the other 5 factors, Hamel talks about adaptability, and he says, as change accelerates, so must the pace of strategic renewal. Problem is, deep change is almost always crisis-driven. It's tardy, traumatic, and expensive. In most organizations, there are too many things that perpetuate the past and too few that encourage proactive change. Amen. The party of the past is usually more powerful than the party of the future. Amen to that too. More on adaptability. That's why incumbents typically lose out to upstarts who are unencumbered by the past. Incumbents tend to be stuck in the past. At least they need to be in the present, and they certainly need more of a future view. In a world where industry leaders can become laggards overnight, the only way to sustain success is to reinvent it. That's why adaptability matters more now than ever. You may remember in an earlier episode I talked about turning around a successful company. And this kind of thought that Gary has shared here speaks directly to this. Because successful companies can really be stuck in the past about what's worked in the past. And it's not to say that everything that's worked in the past is not going to work in the future. That's not the point. But to stick to exactly what worked in the past and think it's going to work in the future is foolish and risky. Hamel also talks about values. Here's my logic for putting these topics, the 5 that I mentioned earlier, front and center. Values. In a free market economy, there will always be excesses. But in recent years, raptious bankers and unprincipled CEOs have seemed hell-bent on setting new records for egocentric irresponsibility. A man after my own heart. Holy mackerel. In a free market economy, there will always be excesses, but in recent years, raptious bankers and unprincipled CEOs have seemed hell-bent on setting new records for egocentric irresponsibility. Go get 'em, Gary. Here's Hamel On Passion. Innovation and the will to change are the products of passion. Boy, are they ever. You've heard me talk about this in the past. Innovation is tough lifting, heavy lifting, and you need passion. They are the fruits of righteous discontent with the status quo. Sadly, the average workplace is a buzz killer. Petty rules, pedestrian goals, pyramid structures drain the emotional vitality out of work. Whew, couldn't agree more. Maybe that didn't matter in the knowledge economy, but it matters enormously in the creative economy. Close quote. Hopefully you can see why I'm using direct quotes, because he's saying all this stuff a whole lot better than if I were to put it in a bunch of summary bullet points. A little bit more on passion. Customers today expect the exceptional, but few organizations deliver it. Absolutely true. The problem is not a lack of competence, but a lack of ardor, passion. In business, as in life, the difference between insipid and inspired is passion. With returns to with returns to mediocrity rapidly declining, passion matters now more than ever. Wish I could have written that. Here's what he says on ideology. Why do our organizations seem less adaptable, less innovative, less spirited, and less noble than people who work within them? What is it that makes them inhuman? The answer, a management ideology that deifies control. Whenever the rhetoric to the contrary, control is the principal preoccupation of most managers and management systems. Again, I couldn't agree stronger. I think I've mentioned in some previous episodes that I've written a book that is yet to be published, and I'm not quite sure what to do with it. And it's called The Death of Command and Control Management. And that's exactly what Gary's talking about. In fact, a subsequent book, he actually then addressed many of the major points that I have in my unpublished book. He says about stewardship, which is kind of like responsibility. Fealty, a propensity to view the talents and treasure at one's command as a trust rather than as a means for personal gain. So stewardship is about about viewing the talents and treasures that are available to you as a business leader as a trust rather than as a means of personal gain, especially ego gain. Another element of stewardship, charity, a willingness to put the interest of others ahead of one's own. Greenleaf, a number of years ago, started a movement built around the concept of servant leadership, something that I strongly believe in and that I used in my later years as I gradually woke up as a corporate manager at Gallo. So a willingness to put the interest of others ahead of one's own. The third element of stewardship is prudence, a commitment to safeguard the future, even as one takes advantage of the present. Okay, a couple more elements on this. Next is accountability, a sense of responsibility for the systemic consequences of one's actions. Be accountable. Last one is equity, a desire to ensure that rewards are distributed in a way that corresponds to contribution rather than power. Again, wish I could have written that. Well, here's some concluding thoughts, at least on this part one. Hamel addresses the bigger business picture and conditions in which innovation exists. And he does it in a very compelling way. While innovation best practices are important to its success, overall business best practices also need to exist for an enterprise to succeed, both with their core business and innovation program. If you'd like more innovation best practices, you can go to my website, i2ge.com, letter I, number 2ge.com. On the left-hand side on the menu bar, click on DIY Innovation Training. A whole bunch of training programs will pop up. If there's not one there that meets your exact needs, just send me an email. We'll be glad to tailor one for you. Here's what I'm trying to do with this. I'm trying to make you innovation self-sufficient, so you don't need to hire expensive consultants like me to do it for you. Another great resource, if I dare say so myself, is one of the 6 books that I've published, and it's titled Proven Practical Innovation That Delivers Results. Would you expect anything less? It's available only at Amazon in paperback and Kindle version, and it's priced below my break-even cost, so it's a heck of a value. If you have suggestions, comments, or requests, I love hearing from listeners. Just send me an email to richard@i2ge.com. And in the next episode, surprise, surprise, we do part 2 from Gary Hamel's What Matters Most. Many more powerful insights and provocative statements. Provocative only because they start waking you up and going, yes, that's exactly right. So tune in to part 2. As all of you know, I'm deeply appreciative of you taking time out of your busy day to spend it with me. I hope to reconnect with you soon, and until then, please have a great day.